My friend and I wanted to try making a 2D game in Unreal Engine in just a single weekend. We didn't hit our goal, but I wanted to talk through our process, take a look at how far we got, and what are some of the issues we encountered with Unreal Engine and 2D games. Let's look at how it ended up. So yeah, here's our little guy. Our animation is a little bit slow. I never got in to change the frames per second of it or whatever, but we got animations, we got movement, we got picking things up. Not beautiful, but it works. The other thing that's kind of fun is that these are actually using Unreal's built-in physics, which is a little bit jank. There's some janky components of the game. But yeah, then the other thing is I didn't get a texture for some stuff. So this is a flour bag. This is supposed to be where you get flour from. And this is where you get water from. This is the bucket my friend made. And yeah, we set up an ingredient and equipment system with recipes. So basically it's the mixer has a recipe, the oven has a recipe, this has a recipe, this has a recipe. So it's yeah, I'll show you. So you can put in a flour into the mixer, but if I try to put in another one, too many of that ingredient are in there and it won't let me. But if I put in water, it will do its thing and tell me that it's ready. There's no UI, obviously. It's just debug log messages. But now I have dough, which, yeah, I know that this isn't dough. It's a hamburger bun, I think, but kind of looks like dough. So yeah, now that can go in an oven, which takes that. And then when it's done, we get bread. And that's basically the loop of the game that we've created. So, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider that we had Friday after work, we had Saturday until I went to Lunar New Year, and then we had Sunday until the Super Bowl. It was kind of the worst weekend to try to do this. But I don't know, that kind of made it even more fun. There was a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure to get things done. Yeah. We came up with a fun name for the game and a pitch. Our pitch was basically a combination of Stardew Valley and Played Up. And if you've never played either of those games, I highly recommend them. They're really fun, especially Played Up. Everyone's heard of Stardew Valley by this point. But Played Up, great game. And I thought it'd be fun to have a combination of building a bakery, kind of like building a farm, but then also having to manage going to a farmer's market and selling your baked goods and having the Played Up side of things. So this was our pitch. We decided to look at how does Played Up or Stardew Valley or a game like that have their little Steam description, and then we tried to make one of our own. We weren't taking this too seriously, but it's just nice to have. It's kind of fun to understand the vibe of the game in just 2 sentences. Next, we started kind of documenting the player experience. What are the verbs of the game? What are the things we're going to be able to do? We really tried to pare this down so that maybe we could get it done in a weekend. Now, we were definitely ambitious because this weekend was both Lunar New Year, which I had to go to a Lunar New Year party, and it was the Super Bowl. And so my friend had to go to the Super Bowl. Well, not go to the Super Bowl. He had to go to a Super Bowl party. I don't think either of us wanted to spend 10 grand on a Super Bowl ticket. So these are some of the things that we wanted to try to get. Organizing the layout, did not get that. Purchasing equipment, we did not get that either. We did implement ovens, mixers, and then we added ingredient stores, basically a place where you can go get infinite water or dough or things like that to make bread. Sell your goods, we did not get there either. And yeah, we didn't even, this was a kind of a stretch goal. And we did not get there. So it's kind of funny. We didn't hit that many of our top level birds of the game, but we did kind of implement a lot of the basic foundation, which we could get to the, we could implement these things pretty quickly. It really took us a lot more time than I expected to get up and running, basically. Some other things we put in here, just it's going to be PC only, development software. I mean, it's basic 2D textures. Most of them we got for free, although my friend did make the bucket texture in MS Paint, which is kind of funny. Genre, yep. Audience, just good to know like what kind of game you're making. We also listed some like primary mechanics, which is like adding ingredients to equipment, using the equipment. We didn't get to proving. We didn't get to selling any of that. Then we go to secondary mechanics. We have the store, which we did not get to. Picking up, putting down items, we did do that. Moving equipment, we did not get there. Art, we didn't spend any time on art. No audio, no sound effects. But we did try to like think about the list of effects we would need. Game experience, the UI. No UI in the game, we didn't even bother. Did not get there. Controls. Many of the controls are implemented on keyboard, nothing on controller. And then we have the shit that needs done. So this was me trying to like task out in the doc. So it's basically like the list of sprites we need, setting up the project. And I took this list of tasks and I ended up converting it over into a project. Now I'm running, this isn't GitHub, I'm running like a hosted Git server called Gitea. Highly recommend it. I run it in my house, which is really nice. And I don't need to worry about like, oh, if the project's too big, you know, like GitHub I think has like a 3 GB LFS size limit. And I know people say, oh, just use Azure DevOps because it's unlimited, but I worked at Microsoft. I'm bored of Azure DevOps. I would rather use this. I just think it's more fun, honestly. You should probably use Azure DevOps, but if you are looking to host something on-prem, I've had a lot of great experience with Gitea. So yeah, this is kind of the state of things today. We made heavy use of the labeling feature, which was really nice. The only thing I wish were true is like when you drag something to done, I wish it actually completed the underlying task. I know that we could have done pull requests and set those up to automatically close issues, I'm pretty sure. But we were just locking files with git LFS, which I'll talk about in a minute. Like, that was a great tool that I think a lot of people don't know exists because they think only Perforce has file locking. Anyways, I'll get to that. But yeah, we were just pushing to main. Like, we were working together on a call the entire weekend, so there's really no need to branch that much. And we pretty much did the whole thing in Blueprint. We did do the whole thing in Blueprint. So there's no merging, so it doesn't really... We just did it all in one branch. All right, let's talk about one of the first things we had to overcome, which is how do you collaborate using Git in Unreal Engine with blueprints? And I think that's a contentious topic. I think a lot of people would say you should just use Perforce. But I actually had moderate success with Git, and I think it could be improved. And I really like to take up the project, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So the issue is essentially that if I change a blueprint and my friend changes the same blueprint and there's a merge conflict, there's no way to merge those two binaries, at least that I know of. I mean, my understanding is they're not mergeable. You know, versus like a text file where you can see the diff and you can understand, okay, like this text should go above that text and like it works out because it's just a text file. I think with a U asset, like a blueprint or something like that, or a map, like a UMap, you can't just merge them. They're a proprietary like binary format and blah blah blah. Not that I'm an expert on this, but that's my understanding. And if I'm wrong, please God tell me. So we wanted to make use of LFS. So if you don't know, LFS is Git's large file system, and it basically lets you define like special types of files that are binary files, and they're stored in a different place and they're treated differently. And that LFS system has in it a file locking system, or a file locking feature, I guess I should say. And so what you can do is so if I look at the list of files I have here, like let's say I want to lock the U project file, for instance, I can say git LFS lock, and then I can put the file in and it will lock it. And if I list the locks, you can see I own gettingbaked.uproject Elliot, and then it has an ID. And so if my friend tries to get a lock on that, it will fail. And the important thing to note here is that when you enable file locking on your repo, which is just a simple command, I'll put it in the description, I don't remember it off the top of my head. But when you turn on file locking, you basically turn everything read-only, which is basically how Perforce works, right? It's like everything is read-only on your local disk until you check something out in Perforce. But with Git, they basically kind of copied that system, or, you know, made their own system. And the act of locking a file will set it to be writable. So, for instance, if I go into, let's say I want to edit the equipment-based blueprint, and I'm just gonna like move something around and hit save. You can see it says checkout assets, BP equipment base. Now the problem is my only option is to make it writable, which is not what you want to do because that's not going through the locking system. And checkout is not supported with Git LFS in Blueprint. Now that is the project I'd really like to take on, like either making a pull request to Unreal Engine itself to add this feature, or making a plugin that does it, or I'm not exactly sure. I have done no research and I know it would be a complicated project without even researching. I know it wouldn't be trivial, but yeah, so that's the main bummer, is like when you hit this, the only thing you can do is hit cancel. And if you want to lock it or make it writable, you need to lock it. And so you can run git lfs lock and then the path to the file. You can hit enter and it will lock it. And now if I try to save it, works great. So now the bummer here is that, like, let's say I'm doing like a major equipment rework. So this is like the oven and the mixer and the whatever equipments that we have in the game. I'm doing something big and I want to lock all of them. Well, you can't lock like the whole directory. Cannot lock a directory. You can't do like star. I have no idea why it will say like contents, blueprints, equipment star is locked. So you can see if I like check all the locks, it will just put star here. But if I go to one of the other equipments and try to save, you know, so it didn't work. It doesn't like support regex or something. So that is kind of an annoying thing. I don't really understand why they did it that way, why you're allowed to lock something that doesn't exist. Like, for instance, you can say git lfs lock file that doesn't exist, and it will lock it, which is really weird. Yeah. And then when you're done with the file, you can say unlock. And so here's the thing. You have to basically tell it to do every file yourself, right? And that sucks. Like if you have 1,000 files, or, I mean, hopefully you're not changing 1,000 files at once, but sometimes you are. Big engine upgrade or something, I don't know. Once you have all the files locked, how do you unlock them? You know, you might have a lot of files locked and they don't actually give you a way to unlock all, which is really, I think, a pretty big oversight. So if you try to just run unlock, it'll say exactly one of ID or set of paths must be provided. So you have to manually give it each path to each thing. So you have to do it like this, where you have git lfs unlock and then the path to each thing that you want to unlock, which is just like, it was maddening. And as soon as we started doing this, I was like, this is ridiculous. So what I did, like the first night, was I made a wrapper script. And I called it lock.ps1. And basically what this will do is let you lock or unlock a single file or a directory or all your locks. Like it will let you unlock everything. So going back to the equipment example, if I wanted to lock all equipment, then I could lock content, blueprints, equipment, and boom, I locked everything. And you can see I have all of these locks for all the equipment, and that was super easy. I didn't have to do almost any work. I just gave it a directory and it figured it out. Now I do my work, I make my commits, I push my code, and let's say I'm done with all these locks. If I want to get rid of all my locks, I can just say lock unlock all. And what's cool is this actually did a few things. So the unable to delete lock internal server error I've literally never seen before until I started recording. So just classic. But what's cool is it unlocked all, almost all of my things except for there was one that it couldn't unlock because I actually have uncommitted changes. So it won't let you unlock something that you aren't done working on, which is kind of cool. And that's that BP equipment base where I moved something and saved it. So if I reset and unlock all again, there we go. I think for some reason it thinks that I have this lock that my friend has because I tried to unlock it earlier or something. I'm not really sure. This is kind of an interesting one. Maybe this is a bug in something, I'm not sure. But yeah, that saved us a ton of time. So yeah, if this is helpful to anyone out there, I don't really know if anyone else is using LFS locking, but I'd be happy to post the script. Actually, the repo will be public. I'll just put it in the description. You can look at the whole repo and this script is in there. Cool, okay, on to the next thing. Alright, the next thing that was a little bit difficult, mainly in the setup of Paper2D, which is Unreal Engine's sort of 2D system, is that at the end of the day, it's still 3D. And now maybe this is just my own inexperience, or maybe there's something I could have done to overcome this in a different way. But I did end up having to have 3D solutions to 2D problems where I've got my floor, which has, so all the boxes you see are collision boxes, except for, most of the boxes you see are collision boxes. And so, as you can see, these walls have, a really high collision, and that's because I really could not figure out a way to, on just a default 2D collision plane, I couldn't figure out how to prevent my character from walking off the edge. The only way I could think of was to make the edge taller, which you really shouldn't have to think about in a 2D game, so maybe there was a better way for me to have done this. But that's what I ended up doing with the equipment. They have a tall hitbox. So yeah, I couldn't think of a better way, but it did work pretty well. But that just kind of goes to my issue here that I'm trying to talk about is it's still a 3D game. You know what I mean? It might appear to be flat, but it's 2D. Now there are advantages to that, which is kind of cool. It's actually lit from a 3D directional light, and the reason I did it that way, and using a perspective camera, not an orthographic camera, I think it's called. The reason I did that was because far enough down the line, if we had gotten that far, which again I was way ambitious, but we could have had real shadows, I believe. Which I was really excited for. I think, there's something kind of amazing about that. I think Octopath Traveler is the most popular version of this, that 2.5D or 2D 3D hybrid kind of game. I think that's actually super cool. Now we weren't going for 2D 3D hybrid. We were going for 2D, but being able to have some of the benefits of the 3D environment, free shadows or something, would be kind of cool. But yeah, in general, it was pretty difficult dealing with the 2D nature of the game because it's actually 3D. Things like collision. I mean, I had to have some hacks where my ingredients were sometimes falling through the floor for no reason. I legitimately couldn't figure out why. Basically, if you were picking up and dropping it enough times, sometimes it would just shoot through the floor. And so I ended up just having to have a hacky solution on tick on the items that says, hey, if we're below 0Z, then move us back to whatever, 1Z or 2Z or something like that. Which actually perfectly segues into the next complaint, which this is a complaint just basically anytime I open up Unreal Engine, but it's that Z is up and X and Y are it's a left-handed game, I'm pretty sure, or a left-handed engine, I'm pretty sure. which basically means like if we want to use X and Y, then one of them has to be backwards. And what I mean by that is, so if we look over here at the location of this bread or the dough or whatever, you can see as I move it to the right, the X location goes up. Or I can do it the other way, where as I move the X location up, the item moves to the right. And obviously it would go down if I go to the left. But the problem is Y is reversed. So when Y goes up, the item goes down. And when Y goes down, the item goes up. And the only way to fix that is to have it be the opposite for X, right? Where then X would be going the wrong way. And so there's no way to fix it. I mean, that's why a lot of examples, when you look up online, like Unreal Engine 2D games, they're using X and Z. Like they have the whole thing flipped on a different axis. But I just didn't want to do it. I don't know. This kind of game, I thought it was appropriate to have it be on X and Y and just deal with the fact that Y is backwards. But yeah, that is a common complaint of Unreal Engine, and I think there's a great Tim Sweeney tweet basically just saying, sorry, coordinate systems are hard, which is true. Let's talk about something that went well, which is PaperZD. This is an amazing plugin. I can't believe it's free. I assume it's free because they got the Epic Mega Grant. But yeah, God bless you, Critical Failure Studio. This plugin's awesome. Saved us a ton of time. It made dealing with the animations so much easier. I don't think I really had like a single problem with this plugin. So yeah, if you're doing Unreal Engine 2D game, like you need to use this plugin. It's a requirement. Honestly, Epic should just like buy it and incorporate it into the engine by default. That's what I would do if I were them, but my guess is they don't really care about 2D games. That's my guess. So they probably won't do that. But yeah, Critical Failure Studio, huge thank you. Amazing plugin, great documentation, great tutorials, like everything about it is great. I mean, I'm sure there's a problem somewhere. Like I'm sure that it's not literally perfect. But I just mean like for what it is, the fact that I paid $0 for this plugin, I mean, it was great. Yeah, the last thing I'll mention is OpenGameArt.org. We got so many sprites from here, and they're all Creative Commons license, which is great. I think we used like this LPC food for like our bread and our dough. At least I'm pretty sure. There might have been a different one with more bread, but yeah, this was super helpful. I mean, like, yeah, they're probably not like shippable quality textures, but honestly, like, they're definitely beta-able textures. Beta-able, if that's a word. But yeah, I highly recommend OpenGameArt.org. Thank you all for making these textures and licensing them in such a great way. So, just awesome. And yeah, that's the game. That's where we got in like roughly 30 hours of working on the game. A lot of the work went into making sure things are easily extendable, which maybe was a mistake. I'm not really sure, but basically it's like all of the logic of like all of our equipment is all in our base equipment class, and there's almost no code in the oven. There's almost no code in the mixer. There's almost no code in the two sinks, and one of which is supposed to be a bag of flour. So in that sense, I think if we had had a full weekend without Lunar New Year, without Super Bowl, it would have been like significantly farther ahead, because I think we were kind of at the point where we got our collaboration tooling figured out. We got our base like framework kind of figured out, like the Paper2D and PaperZD and animation system and all that. And I'd gotten the base equipment systems working. So I think like our productivity was about to go through the roof, but then Monday came, and you know what that means. It's day job time. So maybe we'll keep working on it. I really liked the idea. I love the idea of that like Stardew Valley played up mashup. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to have a quick side project, work on something new, get a break from my 3D game, which I'm making, which is spiritual successor to Gladius, one of my all-time favorite games, but that's a lot more work, a lot more design considerations, and yeah, that's going to be a lot longer of a game. So I thought it'd be fun to have just something small, a little bit easy, feel some progress, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. You know, if you and a friend want to do like a weekend game jam, is kind of what we called it, like, highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about a whole new system. I did not even realize Paper2D existed before I started this, so great system, even though Unreal, I'm sure they don't pay too much attention to it, but it works pretty well. I recommend it. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'll put the source code in the description and links to all the different places I used, and yeah, thanks for watching.